All right, Spags, we are back. It's Tuesday, which means it's time for you and me to go mano-a-mano in the Best Ball Mania 4 streets for $3 million.
Yeah, mini camp is out. OTA is out. There's no football going on in the real world, but we are still going to draft some teams. $3 million to first place up top in Underdog Fantasy's Best Ball Mania 3. And Pete, you are now safely past the 1/3 mark of your teams. You are, what entry number is this for you?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. Going to update our banner. This is number 59. So yeah, last week when we drafted, it was 49 and 50, and today will be 59, and then draft 60 will be immediately following this on the Splash Play channel.
So this worked out well. I'm actually at 60 on the dot heading into this one, so I'm still a little bit ahead of you. There's going to come a point soon where you pull ahead of me, even though you are streaming all of your teams. And I feel like I've had the pressure to kind of make sure I'm like, running neck and neck with you. But if you pull ahead by a little bit, I don't know if it's plus EV for me to keep drafting teams off stream.
Wait, why do you think I would pull ahead? You're going to change your drafting
if I
pace?
slow down a little bit, and I have started to slow down a little, like I was at 50-ish for a while. Now I'm at 60. So like I'm trying to keep it. I want to have 75 done by end of June. So I think we're on pace for that, or, as a max. But you're going to soar past, I think, over the next few weeks, especially because, well, you're going to be out the first week of July too, right?
Yeah, I probably will not be doing as many drafts that week. Right now I've been averaging about 10 drafts a week. Is pretty much where I've been at. And so I think I'm going to try to stay on that pace more or less.
And you got the 6th pick here. I'm at the back half of the first round, picking 12th. And of course, 13th, 2 tough spots to pick. So what are you thinking here, Pete? Seems like it may shock you to hear. Oh, a bit of a wide receiver avalanche room.
Yeah. Diggs goes here ahead. Does feel avalanchy. Let's go ahead though and do, I'm going to do CMC from 6.
Nice. Okay. So you're swimming into the tide. You are a little turtle lost in the sea right now.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, and I've been talking about this with the ship chasing guys a little bit too, and I don't necessarily think there's that big of a difference between like some of the wide receivers going in the second round as there is like after the top 4 wide receivers go off the board. So once Jefferson, Chase, Cup, Hill go, I feel like it's a pretty flat tier. And so, I could get burned in an avalanche room here, but I'm also don't feel like I'm ever going to get burned taking the best running back in football at 1/6.
And even the non-badges in the room, it looks like taking receiver. Garrett Wilson goes with the 9 hole. Garrett Wilson quietly becomes safely in the first round every single time out, which I don't know that I would have necessarily expected when we first started drafting in February and March.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat this morning. We do our first draft here on my channel, then head over to the Splash Play channel for our second draft. So make sure you guys are tuning in for our double header. Shout out Nick, been a while since he got in a live Splash Play. Tyler wants, can we get some flexing this AM Splash Play PHUCKS? I don't even know what that, P-Hux? Is that what that means, Spags?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's too early in the morning to be working blue on this chat. Ooh, look at that flex. How was your first Father's Day? That was something I actually wanted to ask you over text, but I figured if you didn't talk about it on Best Ball Breakfast yesterday, you might want to talk about it today as a ceremonial moment.
Yeah, it was a nice day. We took April to the beach for the first time, so that was fun. It was like a weird thing where it was super rainy on Saturday, so I think a bunch of people just kind of left. And then Sunday there was like no one at the beach, and so that was a fun time here. Let me make my pick, and then I will figure out how I want to play this. This is avalanchy for sure. Let's go ahead and just. I'm really not going to like the wide receivers here in the early third. So I'm going to go ahead and grab T. Higgins, the last of this wide receiver, and then we're going to like whatever comes back to us running back wise at this next pick. So we went to the beat, had some steaks, glass of wine, some chocolate cake. It was also Lauren's birthday on Sunday, so it was a great day.
Did you get the time off thing? Because I feel like when I had my first Father's Day back in the day in 2022, when I had my first Father's Day, Alex gave me a bunch of like dad coupons, like, oh, you don't have to wash bottles this morning. You don't have to do like morning duty. Did you get anything like that? That's just basically every gift the dad wants of not doing work to care for their child.
I didn't get any coupons. I got a really nice frame of 3 photos of me with April. And then for my birthday / Father's Day gift, Lauren got me a couple cases of my favorite wine. So yeah, I got some nice gifts, but no coupons though. I guess I have to clean bottles on my own still.
What's your favorite wine?
It's this vineyard in that I went to in Healdsburg a while back. It's called Hendry. And they have this Zinfandel slash Primitivo that is just like and I'm not even a wine snob. It's just like normally you have a wine, you're like, oh, this is a little too sweet, this whatever. And when I had this wine, I was like, this is literally my exact preferred thing I want when I have wine. So I almost like exclusively drink that when I'm at our house.
Interesting. I didn't know you were a white
Yeah.
wine guy. I like red
It's
wines
not
more.
white. It's not
Oh,
white.
okay. Oh, I thought it was a white zin. Okay, good. Yeah,
No,
red
yeah,
zins
yeah.
are pretty good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I lean red almost exclusively for wine. Unless I'm having like fish or something, I'll have a glass of white, but I prefer red wine.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I like a full-bodied Malbec has always been my kind of thing, but yeah, any kind of red can get me going. But you're coming up here, people talking about mead in the chat, so that's the kind of Tuesday chatter we're going to get here. But I'm curious to see how you handle this because you're going to get DK Metcalf here. So good news, you didn't reach too much ahead of picks to get him, or I guess nobody did really.
I don't like DK Metcalf. I think he's probably one of the most overpriced players on the board here. You see 1.9%. I think I know what I'm going to do here. And I was actually just responding to a comment about what I'm going to do. We'll see if Bullhorn lets me. But it was talking about the Niners and how it's easy to get Debo and Kittle together because their ADPs are correlated on the end of the board, the right side of the board. And then it's easy to get CMC and Ayuk because their ADPs are on the front side of the board. So I have very little Debo and CMC. So I am going to get a pairing here of the Debo CMC and see how this plays out for me with an early 49ers bet.
Yeah, Debo's one of those guys I have not gotten a lot of early in the draft process, I think, because I was just so burdened by him being a guy that really aligned up with a lot of good zero RB pockets last year. But I think you do kind of have to get to Debo a little bit more, especially now. Leone put out a tweet because they're doing their weekly ADP updates. I guess Ayuk is starting to steam up again. It seems to be the case every summer, and it does feel like if Ayuk is going to come anywhere close, to within 20 picks of Debo, Debo probably just a little bit undervalued by how that works.
I have not been getting much Ayuk. What am I at here? 5.6%. So slightly under, which feels about right. I'm kind of with you in that. He's just slightly expensive, but he is part of that big flat wide receiver tier. You are having to decide between where is he going exactly? Yeah, see Godwin, I have a lot more of, so I end up with him. I guess I would like to have my exposure of him a little closer to like McLaurin and DJ Moore. But this, you can see it's like a flat tier. I mean, I'm pretty similar on a lot of these guys. I think what happened is for a while, I was always drafting tight end there. I was drafting Hawkinson and even early Kittle before he started to slip a bit. But yeah, I think Ayuk is fine. He's definitely more in that like spike week chasing play, right? Where he's never going to have like a reliable 25% game target share without an injury. Although he does have some pretty nice contingent upside, right? If like Kittle or Debo got hurt, his role would start to look really nice.
And he did make my BBM final team over Justin Jefferson's 3-pointer last year. I'll never forgive Justin Jefferson for that one, but also never forget Brandon Ayuk being the guy. He and DJ Moore, the two mid-tier guys last year that were important for Week 17. And Ayuk, again, the camp reports are great. Like Debo saying, nobody can cover him in a phone booth, which was the one quote that got spread around. But he just looks great in practice again this year. So it comes down to the QB play, and it does seem like people are speculating you are going to take or you're going to hopefully take Brock Purdy here. One would think.
We shall see. Although I think it was my stream with Brick on last Thursday where I was getting all these ADP values. It wasn't one of my piss boy robes. And I got sniped on Purdy. I got sniped on Baker Mayfield. I believe I got sniped on Ritter. It was just the court. So I don't know. I don't take anything for granted with what quarterbacks I'm going to target. I did add on Terry McLaurin if I'm building out a big Niners bet. I like to grab him there. But Spags, I feel like the audio listeners haven't heard about your team. Give us your start through 4.
Yeah, mine is pretty chalky. Started with CD Lamb and Amon-Ra at the turn. CD, I feel like has been going to the top 10 lately, so I didn't mind taking him at 12. Got Jahmyr Gibbs, again, taking 2 picks on the turn again with Amari Cooper. So we'll see if there's any Jets that make sense later on to try to pair with Cooper for the Week 17 of it all. But I feel like, Pete, I don't get a lot of the kind of chalky Dallas-Detroit Week 17 correlation. So I guess this first draft will be my time here to pick up maybe some Jared Goff or Dak.
Yeah. I like that. I want to get more. I want to get it. I don't know if I have. I'll have to check the Fantasy Life Best Ball Hub to see if I have a Gibbs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. I do not know if I have those two on the same team, and I would like to have some of that. Clay, a fan of my start. You love to hear it. Brandon Ayuk does go there. I didn't do the I guess I could have gone the like total 49ers alpha there and reached for Brandon Ayuk, but we're going to let that one slide. And probably the biggest slider right now on the board, Travis Etienne, falling here. He does finally go 10 picks past ADP. Certainly like Etienne at that price.
So you took McLaurin at 43. I think he's going to be in the 40s over the summer because he's up already 10 spots since, this more robust draft season where people are actually drafting a lot more teams across, not just guys like me and Pete and you guys who are watching the stream, but the casual drafters out there we talk about. And if McLaurin's up 10 picks in that span, I don't see what's stopping him from passing. I don't know. Can he get into the 40s? Can he get into the mid 30s? Because he does feel to me a little bit underpriced throughout this process so far.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. He's never felt like the sexiest player, and even the quarterback situation. I mean, we do have a Sam Howell hive of which I consider myself part of, but I don't think there's anything like news based, that's going to be like, oh yeah, we're all in on Washington. Even if we get like confirmation, Sam Howell is definitively our starter. I do agree with you. I mean, I like him. I'm just trying to think like what would be a catalyst. I'm pretty stoked to get Burrow here. This deep at 5'6" with T. Higgins. I was trying to see why this happened, and it was the Jamar Chase drafter took Justin Fields unstacked at 47, and then, of course, wanted to grab the ETN value. They could have had ETN and Joe Burrow there if they wanted, I'm guessing. That was kind of an interesting play there, but I'll take Burrow stacked with Higgins at that price.
Yeah, the room does seem like a good mix here. There, it looks like there are four guys without badges in the room, which sometimes, as Pete's talked about, can be a sign of QB sniping that's going to be afoot coming up. But it seems like that guy maybe forgot his stack there or something like that. The one thing I'll say from McLaurin that could be a positive thing for Washington, I think, is going to come up in the chat. It's just if the enemy's offense is cooking. Like if they're looking great in training camp and it's starting to look like a fractional version of what the Chiefs offense was. I think it's the one thing that people then start to buy in on McLaurin, the hopes that he's, the target one guy who earns a lot there. So I think that's still the one domino that could fall is like Washington getting all those reports and they're like, wow, he looks like Mahomes out there. That's the one thing that hasn't occurred yet that could occur.
Yeah, and I guess to just put a bow on and while you make these picks, the Washington ADP discussion, I think there's way more room for Dotson to move up. If you look at how much room he could run as far as it wouldn't shock me to see Dotson up in this like early 60 range. Whereas, Terry McLaurin, it is part of this flat wide receiver tier, but I guess I could see him like being up in like the Ridley Amari range. That's probably his ceiling though, as far as ADP. I don't think he's going to move up much further than that. So Terry can move up for sure, 4 or 5 spots. That wouldn't shock me, but Dotson feels like he would be the biggest mover of like bullishness on the Commanders offense.
Yeah, Dotson and I think it was Brett Coleman was talking about it with I forget how do you say his last name? Is it Coleman?
Yeah, Coleman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was on a stream with Hayden the other day talking about his top 5 fantasy players he can't stop drafting. One of them was Dotson. One of them was also Anthony Richardson, which is why they got my click. But was talking about Dotson and just his ability to kind of jump up a tier this year and be a guy that can run a bunch of different routes and do some stuff. So Dotson a sexy pick too, and I think again kind of fits the thesis of what Kansas City can do or Washington can.
I'm going to be taking it's picking which one of my wide receivers I'm already double the field on. I want to take again. We're going to go ahead and grab Treylon Burks here. Which is so funny because it's funny seeing your exposures in that. If you would have asked me without looking there, how much Treylon Burks do you have? I would have been like, maybe slightly overweight the field, like 9-10%. And apparently I'm at like double the field there. So a click I like, but this is still such a nice sweet spot for wide receiver in this range.
Treylon also getting some positive mini camp reports of looking like a quote unquote beast out there, Pete. So you're on the right side of history. And Burks too is one of those guys. Like, I don't get why London goes so high and Burks doesn't. I kind of feel the same way about Pickens too. But like to me, like Burks and London are a pretty good 1-to-1 comp, just how the offenses work.
And that's why that's the exact reason I have so little London. I think I was looking at, 1.9% is like London. London is a similar bet as Burks. Like very similar in the fact that you're paying such a premium for London really doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's tough because I like Drake London. Like in a perfect world, like if London and Pitts were both going in the 6th round, I'd be like one of London or Pitts in every draft or whatever, just hoping that you could nail that one breakout because both of their profiles are so nice. But man, at that London cost, when you have these arbitrage, very similar bets later, it's really tough.
Yeah, I agree. And London too, it's very similar in terms of the Burks and Chig not able to get there at the same time. Kind of the same thing last year with London and Pitts. When Pitts went out, that was when London started to send a little bit more with Ritter being out there. It's the coffee.
I want you to start getting comfortable talking over the pour. It doesn't deserve the full limelight here.
I was hypnotized by it. It was just so electric that it was hitting the mic just right. But yeah,
Mm.
I think to me it is very similar for those two teams, and Burks just undervalued inherently. Though I do feel like Burks is one of those guys where he could come up to the Pittman range, and I probably wouldn't blink an eye.
Yeah. Um, I wouldn't either. He feels like an obvious riser as well. Trying to see what we want to do at this stage of the draft. No huge ADP fallers. I've been enjoying punting tight end a little bit. I was going to take Dameon Pierce if he fell. He's been a guy I've been wanting to get a little bit more of. He goes here. I think we just go back to the wide receiver well. I've been trying to boost up consciously my Elijah Moore exposure here. And so I'm going to keep doing that as we enter what I like to call the wide receiver purgatory range of the draft, where it's like you can squint and tell yourself a story that Cooks, Moore, Bateman, Zay, Thomas, Sutton deserve to be higher. But I'm now starting to feel the window even inch up further when it's like once Dotson and Gabe Davis and Pickens and Quentin Johnston are off the board, then I start to feel even more squirmish about these picks.
I just can't believe we're back here with Elijah Moore. Like I know it's a
I
new
can't
team,
either.
but
Yeah.
he was one of those guys last year that I really thought had a chance to make a jump, and then the market kind of got ahead of it a little bit more, and I didn't want to be there quite as much. And now we're in the exact same situation, except that all the athletic reports are looking great. Everything that's coming from the beat reporters are how great he's looking again with no Cooper out there, so not quite the full volume of what you're expecting will go to the overall passing offense. But I just feel like Moore, like I'm with you. I don't want to have none of him. At the same token, in this range, like he does stand out like a guy that, he could absolutely kill you if he just doesn't get the work that everybody's expecting.
Yeah. I think I kind of like the idea. I don't have much Amari and I don't have much Chubb and I don't have much Watson either. I am pretty solid on Njoku. I think I'm just enjoying playing this Browns offense through the cheaper pieces now. Have a decent amount of Jerome Ford, Elijah Moore, Njoku. I think that's going to be kind of the way I play it this year.
Yeah, I was hoping DeAndre Swift was going to fall to me, but that doesn't work out. So I'll take Pacheco instead. Which really doesn't do a lot for me here. This is a not great tier for me. I don't want Cook at all at this point. I'm not buying any of the headlines.
Watson with
around
Amari?
it. Yeah, I think that's the move. It's just like I have so many stacks open right now, and taking the QB now will then box me out of one of Detroit or Seattle. But yeah, Watson at 85 feels pretty okay.
Yeah, I will say you do like if I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, I find it fairly easy to get Goff. Gino will go all over the place though. The Walker drafter will take him, the DK drafter will take him. He's less of a lock. So like in that spot when you're picking at the turn, I never feel fully confident he's coming back. So I don't mind getting your first quarterback there.
Yeah, I think Watson works, and I certainly have enough QBs in this range. So Watson getting the shares in that I would like to get for myself, especially with Amari Cooper. What are you going to be doing here after Glitch? It feels like you got some directions to go. You got a lot of optionality with how you built your team.
Yeah, geez, and God, I hate these picks available here. What do we want to do? No tight ends I like. I don't feel compelled to take any of these wide receivers here. I guess I could just dance around and grab a running back I really like. I've been taking my foot off the gas a little bit with Javonte Williams and keeping my foot firmly on the gas with James Cook there. So yeah, I did not feel good about any picks here. There was nothing that was jumping out to me. So I just took my favorite running back in this range.
Yeah, I have a lot of Javonte too, just because of where he falls, and I think he's probably the one guy in this range that, if things had worked out better for him injury wise last year, he'd probably be in that Breece Hall range this year. Where am I at on Javonte? Because I have 13% Javonte, which actually feels pretty reasonable.
My thing with Javonte is I feel like cheaper Javonte is coming, and I do think Samaje Perine is going to flip him at some point. So that's the only thing that I'm just trying to be a little more price conscious on him. Whereas like the James Cook ADP, I don't feel like that one is going to ever get much cheaper.
Were there any final week of mini camp slash, like were there any things that stood out to you? Because there were some Pittsburgh Steelers headlines out there. I was certainly hoping somebody was going to tout Pickens a little bit more. Instead, Allen Robinson gets the shine in the athletic articles about how well he's doing. Was there any last minute news for, I guess, this last burst here before there is any news for a month that stood out to you?
I mean, the one that I was looking at a lot was the Raven stuff with
Mm.
Rashad Bateman in the cortisone shot. And, I think you can read it either way. I don't think the shot itself is necessarily super concerning, but I do think it just points to he's still rehabbing from this Liz Frank and he's very susceptible, I think, to re-injury. So I've kind of done a little personal flippening of Zay Flowers over Bateman for now, just kind of in my Baltimore stacks or when I'm grabbing the end of it. And you see that's exactly how it went in this draft. I still think they're very close, but I am going to tilt stuff there. I've been looking, I think for Fantasy Life, I'm going to make a couple videos about some of these positional ADP battles. The other one I was looking at was Rashee Rice and Sky Moore, who are going in a very similar range. Sky Moore been getting a lot of hype from Andy Reid saying he's making the jump. Yesterday on my draft, I took two of the Chiefs wide receivers super late, Justin Ross and Richie James. But I do think if I'm grabbing anyone in that mid range, like my preferred target would be Sky right now. Just trying to read the tea leaves a bit.
Yeah, and again, he was the guy working with the starters in that first little burst of camp. So got to assume that'll hold up into July. And and again, Kadarius Toney out there as well, though obviously a little more expensive than Sky Moore. Sky going next to Rashee Rice, I think, is going to look pretty good for Sky by the time the season starts. But yeah, I feel like there wasn't anything that jumped out. I've been waiting for more athletic articles to come out. Obviously, the Richardson part of it, people missed on Friday. Did finally get to draft Richardson on one of the Spags Stacks videos, so that felt pretty good. But it does feel like no concrete things there for him starting. But let's see what Pete picks here.
Yeah, let's see here. This would be if I had gotten sniped on Burrow, I would definitely take Richardson here, but I have multiple outs toward to late um why can't I talk quarterbacks with the Purdy, with the Howell. I was going to take Njoku to basically have that Cleveland stack without Watson. He goes here. So I will grab another one. I'm just playing my hits at running back. James Cook, Zach Charbonnet, probably my two favorite running back selections in this pick 90 to 105 range. And I guess I could have reached for an Antonio Gibson or something. He comes off the board, really build out that San Francisco, Washington, but just grabbing my guys, I guess.
And another one of those drafts too, where perhaps we have a better chance to advance because we are competing for some of the same teams. Because I was hoping Charbonnet would fall, but I don't think if you took him, it's like somebody else is going to take him before I got back up.
Yeah, I feel like the band of Charbonnet's ADP is very tight. I feel like he goes between 100 and 105 in basically every draft. No one ever reaches crazy for him, but no one's ever like, ew, I don't want Zach Charbonnet. Holy cow, this Dobbs rise. Sean had hyped him up on my last Wednesday, and now I'm seeing him go in a ton of drafts really early.
He's fine. I don't get that as much. 2 at 107's got to feel pretty good for that guy. All right, I'm on the clock here. It's not a big, well, I guess it's an okay enough value for Dak that it kind of feels like I could take him as well. But obviously, Goff will be coming up some point later on. I'm going to take Pirine with my first pick. Just get a little better at running back here. Receiver Juju coming off the knee stuff has been spooking me a little bit lately. I think his ADP is going to drop until July. I'm going to reach here, not take any QBs and see what comes back to me. Could take Damian Harris. So 4 running backs now, 5 receivers. And I feel pretty good at these positions. I definitely could have taken a QB there, Pete, but so many on the board. I feel like somebody good's going to come back my way.
Yeah. And I mean, your draft is why the pockets of the draft board this year just line up so well for zero RB. I guess you could say you did kind of modified there with Gibbs, but still getting your, what did you get? 5 wide receivers or 6? Yeah, 5. You and I both threw 5 here. Let's see. I guess Gino was there if you wanted to reach, and he's not going to come back for you. Let's see.
Because either he's going to fall a lot, like either Gino will fall or I'll get Goff at what the ADP is correct. I think either of those would be fine for me with how I've built.
Yeah, man. Let's see here. I might just do a gross. I have so much Tyquan Thornton. I have so little Juju. Juju with my little James Cook here. I don't have a ton of other backdoor stack options. In a perfect world, Tyler Boyd would have came back to me here. I could have double stacked, but knowing like that, I'm probably going to be on Niners and Commanders. Like this is one I was talking about this on Best Ball Breakfast. How there's some teams like the Giants and the Chiefs that make it really easy to round out the rest of your wide receiver room late in drafts, but I can already tell like the teams I'm going heavy on, like the Bengals, they all dry up. I've already cornered the market on Niners. So I don't actually have a lot of wide receivers that make sense in a correlated fashion. So I'm going to go ahead and use this opportunity to get a dusty Juju share.
I don't think Juju's dusty. It's just like, so apparently last year the Chiefs were managing his knee throughout the home stretch of that season. And also he didn't participate in OTAs or minicamp for that same reason this year. Obviously that could be erring on the side of caution because they are giving him at least a good amount of money for this year. But the Juju part that just worries me is A, so the knee is not great. B, he hasn't been out there with his teammates. They're installing a new offense with this Bill O'Brien offense. It's going to hopefully make everybody at least average, which they were not last year with Matt Patricia. But then the C part of it too is just like, if they do sign DeAndre Hopkins, everybody in that offense has to come down a bit. So that's where I think Juju does run into some risk. But like, do you think Hopkins is going to New England? Because that's the one I've thought made sense. But the Titans too, like it just seems like it's going to be one of those ugly teams.
I have not understood this whole DeAndre Hopkins tour whatsoever. Like when he was entertaining the Texans and the Patriots, it makes no sense. Why would you want to go play outdoors in the cold with a mediocre to bad quarterback in one of the toughest divisions in football to round out your career? Like makes zero sense to me. Also with the history of a coach that you didn't have the best relationship with in Bill O'Brien. I mean, I don't know. It makes no sense to me, although it's still probably the smart money. Chat, I know Juju is dust. It's why I have 1.9% of him and 25% of Tyquan Thornton. Let's see here. Oh, Spags, maybe your Geno dream will come back to you here. You do have Geno and Goff still on the board. Is there any running backs I want to do here? Man, this is kind of, we could do, you know what? I kind of like doing this sometimes when I have a Burke share. This is what I was going to kind of do with Njoku and Elijah Moore. We'll do the Chig and Traylon Burks. Chig, a guy I don't have a lot of. I think it just said 2% there. But I'll make a bet on the Tennessee offense in this draft.
What a great bet to make. If you could buy it on anybody, buy it on Tennessee.
Bet talent. Grab talented players. The rest will work itself out.
Did you see the report? That was another interesting report, actually, which is going to have relevance for you today. That Malik Willis is apparently flipping Will Levis in the depth chart for now, and Levis has looked apparently egregiously bad in what they've put out there so far, at least.
Yeah, I've been. It was basically, I think, since Thursday. I've been off Twitter. I haven't read a single news blurb. I get all of my news from the chat. They just synthesize it all for me, and that's how I get it.
Of course, this guy takes Geno for his correlation with nothing.
Oh.
Jalen Warren goes the pick before that. So great. Okay.
Man, Spags, that would have been such a smash. Geno at 132 with a double. God, that hurts.
Geno and Warren there would have been very nice. Warren getting some nice camp reports for the Steelers as well. Kendre Miller. I think I need to take a receiver here. I'll take Rondale Moore, not a guy who fills me with joy or anything, but this is a cheap price tag for him, especially with the ETR ranks pushing him up. But fuck, man. Geno and Warren would have made that a very nice turn. I would have felt very good about it. Instead, I get the consolation prize.
I'm trying to figure out. So this user here, we got a red badge, took Tua and Geno both on snack, both good values for sure. But man, this is one of those things like where you're really weighing it in a room. Like he'll like for your advance rate stuff, probably very strong boosting his advance rate, but a team is just likely dead in the playoffs here.
Yeah, I don't love it. Not a red badge move.
Let's see here. What running backs? Russell Wilson. I'm good on Rice. I guess we'll just grab Tank here. Feels like a running back pick. Man, this is a lot of my drafts. I feel like either the ADP value or the correlation play just jumps out at me. This draft has felt like really choose your own adventure at multiple of these selections here.
Yeah, I don't hate my team. I think it could have been if a couple things broke better for me. I think this would have been a powerhouse team in this room.
Yeah.
Instead, I just feel like the team is just kind of like like a 60th percentile team, 70th percentile team for me.
Catching up on the chat. Some of you guys are just completely out of pocket today, but Kitchen will be so proud of these Titans picks. He will, although on the Swolecast, Kitchen never drafts these Titans. He's out on Henry. I guess he's in on Tajay Spears, which that's just a bizarre twist. DFS, thank you. I work overnights and your content helps me get through the night with my draft. So I figured it's my way of giving back. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate you, DFS 28.
And of course, make sure to subscribe to the Peach channel. He forgets to do it here, but he's on the march to 15,000 subs. And before you tune out, if you do go to another, go to your job or whatever, make sure to subscribe to the Peach channel here because you're now like pretty much like 1,000 away almost.
Yeah, I was actually just going to pull it up. I think we're getting close to being 1,000 away, close to 1,400. We're at 13,930 right now. So 70 away from 14K and 1,070 away from our giveaway, which I will be doing when we hit 15K. Every time on one of my draft streams, you leave a comment after the show. That'll get you entry into the drawing. So the more video streams you leave comments on, the better your chances of winning one of the 3 $500 prizes. And I'll do that drawing shortly after hitting 15K subs.
Also, interesting little chat here from Line of Scrimmage, who's one of the top finishers in last year's BBM. But a reminder for the people out there who are hopping into these streets that just because you see a badge out there, they might have their badge from drafting in other sports or doing, their 1,000 drafts somewhere else. So something to keep in mind there. That just because you see a badge in a room doesn't mean they're going to be a great sharp drafter, as we saw with perhaps some unwise sniping by Jay Napoli here in the 11 hole.
Yeah, and I am just going to grab Irv here. I like getting to the double stacks with Burrow, so we're going to do that. Although the bye week bros are going to come after me 2 week sevens. What was I just going to say to your point? Oh, on the badge thing. Yeah, and the other thing about the badge, bro, is badge bros. When you do a ton of drafts, the more drafts you do, the more you find yourself enjoying ADP value because when you do drafts, you start to be like, okay, this guy's normally here for me. And then you start to get excited. You're like, holy cow, this guy is available to me 16 picks later. He's never here. So I do say Badge Brews. You guys should do a coffee line.
Yeah, the Badge Bros need to do a partnership immediately.
Yeah, let's do it. I do find that they tend to be value hounds. So it makes sense. Although now this 3 quarterback build, I'm done defending Napoli here. But he finally does get his stack with Jordan Love. This is where I just prefer to practice patience with it, right? Because I did have a couple quarterbacks I liked, but when I know how I'm building a team as far as what I can do late with my other quarterback options, how I want to devote my draft capital that I've already spent with Joe Burrow, I'm trying to think through how can I build the strongest team for the playoffs. Napoli here is trying to build the strongest team for weeks 1 through 14. And that's what makes this fun, because if we were all building the exact same way, like sometimes happens on my Piss Boy streams, it's not as fun.
Yeah, and that's why when we get these weird rooms, like Pete and I think we're both going to hold in reverence that 4for4 stream we did with Dale a couple of weeks ago, because it was just such outside of our normal drafting approach there in terms of how everybody else is doing things. When you get one of these rooms that people are doing something weird or different, it's always a way to take advantage of it as long as you're kind of paying attention and see what Pete can do here to take advantage.
Yeah, I think I'm going to grab your boy here. 11 picks past ADP. This is probably my last running back selection. CMC here. Algier. Yeah, let's go ahead and do Algier. Definitely in on Algier at that price. So Spags, let's recap our teams here for the audio listeners who we have been forgetting here. I'm at a 1-5-6-2 build. I got Joe Burrow at quarterback. My running back, CMC, James Cook, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Tyler Algier. My wide receivers, T. Higgins, Debo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Traylon Burks, Elijah Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster. Tight ends, Chiga Conquo, and Irv Smith. What are you working with, Spags?
I'm at a 2-5-6-1 at QB, Deshaun Watson and Jared Goff. Running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Samaje Perine, Damian Harris, and Jerome Ford. At receiver, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amari Cooper, JSN, and Tyler Lockett, along with Rondale Moore. And a tight end, my first tight end goes here at pick 157, taking Sam Laporta for the Jared Goff correlation, but probably a 3 tight end build for me today. We'll see what we do here at the home stretch.
I feel like you have recovered nicely. I was curious to see if you would have gone. I mean, Jerome Ford kind of checks that box too. If you would have gone Donovan Peoples-Jones to get that double stack with Deshaun Watson, but you're still making a similar bet there.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was trying to figure out who was going to be more likely to fall between Laporta or DPJ, or who's more important, I guess, to me if they didn't fall. I think Laporta is a little more important to complete this Detroit triple, but DPJ certainly, if he were to fall a lot further, I wouldn't mind taking him. But we'll see. People like DPJ sometimes on stack.
Yeah. Trying to look at the board here a little bit. Um, Tanner took Curtis Samuel last round. He was going to be on my radar here to give me another out if I wanted to double with Howell. DPJ here, though, sliding is interesting to me, but I probably think I'm not going to risk it at quarterback. I think is going to be how I play this here. I think just ADP wise, Purdy's at 184. I pick at 187, knowing that Napoli is liable to snipe up any quarterback, even remotely near ADP. I think I will just get my quarterback here and make sure I'm not tilting this too heavily. So Brock Purdy, come on down. We have CMC, we have Debo. Let's get our guy.
So I think you and we've talked about this a little bit on stream, but Brock Purdy, we're both assuming I think will end up starting pretty soon after the season starts. If not ready for week one. What happens to Trey Lance? Like, is he on the team the entire year? Does he get traded before the trade deadline? Like, because that can't stand. Like, he can't just be a backup for the entire year, I would think.
Yeah, it's tough. My guess is there's a big discrepancy between what the Niners would want in return for him and what the market is willing to pay. I do wonder the thing that's interesting about him, right? He's not like a Jimmy Garoppolo type where a contending team who say has an injury is like, oh, let's just plug and play. Let's trade something and just keep this offense afloat. Like Trey Lance has a ton of associated risk with him. I assume a team would like want him in the system throughout training camp, throughout preseason to eval. So he doesn't seem like a trade candidate for a team who's actually making a push. He'd be more of a rebuilding one, where everyone had floated the Titans, I think, as being one, but then they go and draft Will Levis. I mean, maybe a team like the Cardinals, right? Like maybe if they're like, what's going on with Kyler? We don't like Clayton Tune, Colt McCoy's hurt. So I really don't know the paths for Trey Lance being relevant this year. It's probably staying on the Niners. It's probably Brock Purdy not being ready week one and Sam Darnold being so bad. Like that's still probably his best chance, or Purdy getting hurt again. Is probably his only chance of seeing the field.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Him hanging on somehow, Purdy having a delay in the recovery, or he gets out there and it hurts the elbow again. That does seem right. It still feels like he gets traded somewhere, but the Titans thing he's been connected to for so long, they have Levis now, and if Willis is looking okay, maybe they're happy to trot him back out there as well. But also, I took DPJ here. DPJ fell to the 180 spot. DPJ and Tyler Conklin are my picks here, so I got a little value back, Pete, after getting screwed by by one drafter in particular throughout this process.
Yeah, that was a nice pick. I wanted to consider him, but seeing that Sam Howell went at 178, I am glad that I didn't do that. I think I am going to get to a 6 running back build here. Although let me just check the wide receivers. There is some stuff here. You know what? Actually, no. Let's grab Khalil Shakur. I need a couple more wide receivers. I have a little Buffalo, New England bet here with James Cook. He's been a guy. I've been talking about this on Best Ball Breakfast, playing the Chiefs team through some of the cheapest players and playing the Bills passing game. I really like Knox. I like Shakir. I like Deontay Hardy. So I'm going to keep playing that angle here and add Shakir as my 7th wide receiver.
Khalil Shakir looking pretty good in camp as well. That seems like not good enough to take a leap up. The wide receiver 3, you look the best, who we've talked about a little bit for Buffalo so far, has been Trent Sherfield. Apparently good rapport with Josh Allen, though. We'll see if he can actually earn a roster spot, because it does feel like they invested enough in Deontay Hardy as well as Shakir. Might be tough for him to stick on there, but I have no issue with Shakir. I do think Dalton Kincaid, Pete, I know we've talked about the ADP being a tough one. He was out there really early on building rapport with Josh Allen in the first team, and I think that's a positive for Kincaid. And I still think most likely outcome is he's the true wide receiver 3 for this team, even if it's not as high of a volume upside as like people are treating it like it.
For Kincaid?
Yeah, like I think Kincaid people are too excited for, but I think he is like the functional wide receiver 3 and maybe 2 if Gabe gets a little bit weird.
The other thing that's interesting, and I got to give a shout out, Ben Gretch and Mike Leone are starting their projection pod series over on the Establish the Edge. They do that annually. It's a really good exercise if you're like super in the weeds on ADP and structural drafting, like then kind of getting in the mode of actually how are projections sausage getting made. And one thing Ben highlighted too is that Khalil Shakir actually ran a decent amount of routes out of the slot last year. And it is kind of interesting to know how they'll use Kincaid. Like, is it going to be more two tight end sets, or are they just going to push Kincaid out as like a glorified slot receiver? That's what makes the Bills offense so interesting, is I think there is so many unknowns with how they use Kincaid. But again, you have to be a lot more right with Kincaid's price than you do Shakir's price. And, in 3 wide receiver sets, I guess you can still make the case for Hardy, but Shakir played well when he got on the field last year. I feel like there's just a couple outs to him hitting. So I like Shakir, but I understand having some hesitation for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You know what we're going to do? I have this big Cincinnati stack in no KC bring back. I keep talking about my favorites here, Shakir. Let's go ahead and bring Justin Ross back as well.
He's one of your favorites now, huh? He's made that grouping.
No, all of my I talked about a lot on Best Ball Breakfast. I'm now playing these Chiefs and Bills offenses through the cheapest pieces, and I want to bring back for this Cincinnati game. I don't know who's left. I like Richie James too. I could have taken him, but the rest of the Chiefs are all gone. So Justin Ross is the next best.
Yeah, I need to take a tight end with one of my picks here, and I'm not sure there's anybody who stands out as being that appealing to me at this point. You're Ferguson over Schoonmaker, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know what level of confidence should be applied to that, but Ferguson seems like the better bet to me.
Ferguson was okay last year. Schoonmaker was good in college and played at a better college. I'm going to take Izzy Abanikanda with my first pick here. So just increasing that Cleveland Jets bet that is apparently an important part of this team. And I don't know. I think I like Schoonmaker more. Am I taking Ferguson at all? I don't think I'm taking Ferguson. So I'm going to take Ferguson in this one. My team is correlated. It was a weird pathway to it. Would have liked to have gotten a Pittsburgh guy somewhere in the mix, but I've got Cleveland Jets. I've got Dallas, Detroit. So I did what I was kind of what the table gave me here, and I feel pretty okay about that.
Put it on our tombstones. My team was correlated. Here lies Pete and Spags with a negative 150% ROI at Best Ball Mania 4. Our teams were correlated.
I do think that's the one thing, Pete, and I'm sure you get a lot of screenshots too, where you see him on the Deposit Kingdom Discord and all that. That's the one thing that even good drafts and even people who I think are drafting with all the best info and listening to this show and ETR and everything out there, they sometimes don't week 17 correlate. So I still think that's the one that I'm always trying to tack on.
Yeah. I'm also rounding out some of my correlations here. I think I'm going to build out this Bills New England game. Yeah, my team's fairly correlated as well. We got the San Francisco Brock Purdy, CMC Debo with McLaurin on the bring back. We got the Joe Burrow, T Higgins, Irv Smith with Justin Ross on the bring back. We got the 4 stack from Buffalo in New England with Shakir and James Cook, as well as Juju and Hunter Henry. We got a bet on the Titans with Chig and Treylon Burks. I guess my only uncorrelated piece is Elijah Moore, one-off, Tank Bigsby, one-off, Charbonnet, and Algier. So some of the running backs. But yeah, I like how this team shook out.
Was there any consideration for you to go to a third QB instead of a third tight end?
If Sam Howell was available, I would have considered it. I guess the chat was hoping that I would get another Tannehill share. I actually haven't updated my exposures here because I took him on the Lulz stream last week when I got shut out. But I think Howell would have been close. But I feel fine with Burrow and Purdy, and then Chig and Irv as a tight end room. Even bye week stuff aside, feels pretty weak as a 2 tight end room.
Also, here's a question here before we head over to the Splash Play channel. Of course, a doubleheader will go on, so go over to @SplashPlayPod or stick on this YouTube channel and you'll get redirected the second we end here. Pete, of course, for your $11 monthly perks, I'd like to learn how to get the tools. What's the advice here for somebody who wants to get in the mix here as we are in the relaxing part of draft season, I suppose?
First of all, I should say I don't believe anything is $11, but I do appreciate you becoming a YouTube member. So as far as getting in the Discord, so there's the Deposit Kingdom Discord. We got all kinds of channels in there, and once you go in there in the FAQ, it describes how to sync your YouTube and Discord account. Once you sync that, you'll unlock some of those private channels that'll get you the randomizer, the best ball value hounds, which is where on Mondays I tip off entering my drafts. And then as far as tools, the ones I use on the show, I've been mentioning the Fantasy Life Best Ball Hub for reviewing exposures. That's entirely free. You can check that out. I'm using the Draft Caddy to show my exposures on here. That is unfortunately not part of the YouTube membership. That is my buddy Brian's site. It's thedraftcaddy.com. If you want to get that, I believe it's $29 a month, and you can basically select whatever overall stuff you want. But happy to help you out. If you have any other questions, feel free to @ me on Twitter or in Discord, and I'll get you squared away.
And the Deposit Kingdom, of course, a great place. Everybody talking in there. The Splash Play channel, always fun for me to hop in, but the Ship Chasing room popping off. The Best Ball rooms, the DFS rooms are all there for you, so go check that out. Follow Pete at Peter Overzet. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. And Pete, what's the show schedule coming up here? When's your next draft? Besides, of course, our doubleheader on the Splash Play channel coming up in a moment.
Yeah, we're gonna do. I'm trying to remember my Tuesday schedule. We're about to draft over on Splash Play. Then I will have my office hours in the Fantasy Life Discord at 3:30, and then on the club today, we're gonna talk a little hoops. We're gonna have Drew Dinkmeyer from ETR on, noted Jokic and Nuggets fan, talk a little bit about how the NBA Finals wrapped up. And Dink, low key in these best ball streets, have been battling in a slow bulldog, the $500 draft on underdog with him. So we'll talk a little best ball, a little hoops, and then I'll be back as always tomorrow at 10 a.m. for another best ball breakfast doubleheader with Sean Siegel and Pat Corain. So that's my schedule. And let people know, Spags, too, because obviously people come watch our draft after this. How have your Friday stack streams been going? I saw the other day you got your beloved Colt stack, and the joy it brought you is just unparalleled.
Yeah, no, that was a completely genuine reaction. You could see my happiness getting the wheel to come up for Colts. But yes, every Friday doing a double header of Spag stacks where I will spin the wheel and draft the NFL team that comes up on the wheel. So I have no choice there. Every single week, the second draft, Pete, goes poorly for me. Ends up getting sniped on everything, ends up being the one that's not fun. But the first draft has been very clean. So I would encourage you guys to check those out if you need some more best ball content in your life. A great way to spend a Friday here in the summer, Pete. But I think we have to go do our time shift. So let's hit the outro for us, Pete. Hit it nice.
Well, I was just going to say two things.
Yeah.
One quick call. When you got the Colts stack, what pick did you take A. Richardson at to make sure you got him?
I got him as a value, so I didn't reach.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a risk profile that I could have had to take Minshew in the 18th, but I felt like the room was aligning well. Lots of badge names that I knew, so I figured that there wasn't going to be anybody reaching to ruin it. Casey, our guy who's always in the chat, made me sweat it a little bit, but no, he fell nicely, and that was one of the cleaner Colt stacks I've built. So you can build good teams on stream, guys. It might seem like we can't based on how many times it happens on here when we're doing these shows, but it was a real clean team.
It was. I'm excited to check that out. Why don't we do a quick recap for the audio listeners? Because, Spags, we are posting these back-to-back drafts on the Splash Play audio feed. I remember to service the audio listeners on Best Ball Breakfast. Sometimes Spags and I don't do a great job servicing them. I do feel like the teams need a little bow there. We talked about our teams being correlated, but did you do a full rundown of your team?
I'll go into it now. So at QB, again, Watson and Goff as my guys here, both of them at a little bit of a value. Jameer Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Samaje Perine, Damian Harris, Jerome Ford, and Izzy Abanikanda at running back. At wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amari Cooper, JSN, and Tyler Lockett. Did not get to stack those guys. Rondale Moore and DPJ at a pretty big discount. And at tight end, certainly my thinnest grouping here, Laporta, Conklin, and Ferguson. But if you're going to go 3 tight ends, I think that's the way you do it.
I don't even, I think this is a nice 3 tight end team. I actually posted a short from Corain last week where he was talking about how Laporta is kind of the perfect pick for either a 2 tight end or a 3 tight end build, just making sure in both of those scenarios, you're getting access to some late season upside, which he certainly offers here. And you did, I think wide receiver wise too, getting those 5 in the first 60. And then the fact that you were able to get DPJ correlated at such an extreme value is really, really nice there. So that worked out for you. And then just to do a quick final recap on mine, have a 2-5-8-3, Got Joe Burrow, 10 picks past ADP, which was nice. So I have a Burrow Purdy team. Running back, 5 build here. CMC, Anchor, James Cook, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Tyler Algier. Wide receivers, Higgins, Debo, McLaurin, Traylon Burks, Elijah Moore, Juju, Khalil Shakur, Justin Ross. Tight end, Chig, Irv, Hunter, Henry. Feel good about this team. A lot of the picks felt like just do whatever. They weren't super obvious, but in the macro, I like how it turned out.
Yeah, I'll be marking this team with an X to indicate there. It's one I expect big things
Ooh.
of come this Best Ball Mania 4 season. But Pete, we're gonna draft another team here, and that one I'm sure will be worse for us.
All right. I got the link down below. And I don't know if I have it pinned in the chat this time, but the link's definitely down below. Head over to the Splash Play channel or just refresh your screen. It'll immediately pop up. Spags and I will see you over there in approximately 30 seconds. Peace.